Welcome back to the Girl Gig After Hours, the show where we break down an episode of the Girl How'd You Get That Gig podcast, hosted by 8-time award-winning reporter and producer Amy G and longtime sports producer and entrepreneur Celeste Gearing. We're glad you could join while we discuss how these incredible women in sports and guests of the pod are paving the way for young women like us who want to pursue a career in the sports industry. What an incredible resource. I'm your host, Paige Stought, a grad student at Ohio University, getting my master's in sports administration. And joining me today is Audrey Salvador, a student at Sonoma State, getting her bachelor's in communications. Thanks for joining me today, Audrey.
Thank you so much for having me.
Yeah. So let's jump right in. In episode 2, Amy G and Celeste welcomed in Sarina Morales, previous host and reporter for Bally Sports. They covered a lot with her, from her time at National Geographic to growing up in the Bronx. But I want to start with something really fundamental they discussed, and almost a common theme in the podcast, which was Sarina's ability to just always show up. So love your opinion on this. You know, Sarina mentions her challenging times as a little girl playing baseball with the boys. You know, she talks about her time at Syracuse. What about always showing up resonates with you, and why do you think that might have helped her get to where she is now?
Yeah, well, with me, I feel I played softball my first 2 years at Sonoma, and it was hard. And I think it definitely taught me a lot of life lessons. I originally came in as a communications major, but a lot of my classes didn't really align with the practices, and playing a sport in college, you kind of figure out pretty quickly that your sport kind of comes first before your academics, like it's an unspoken rule.
Yeah.
And so I really had to pick between a sport or my academics, and ultimately I chose my academics. But I think now that I'm excelling in the academic side of things, and I could come back to the athletic department as the creative media intern for them, and it's a full circle moment, so I could really prove to myself and my old teammates and the coaches and the athletic department themselves, my bosses, that I am going to show up. And it's a complete 180 from who I was 2 years ago and to who I am now. And I think Sarina's story really resonated by her showing up every day, when it was being a little girl on the baseball team, to Syracuse, and then to ESPN. So I believe that really got her to where she is at ESPN, because I mean, she talked about her being dyslexic and how it was hard for her to kind of read just basic prompts. And I think her persevering and figuring out for herself how she can find certain ways to jump through those obstacles. I think her being a little girl going through something in the baseball world really showed out and really taught her how to do that in the adult work environments.
Absolutely. I think, you know, and I'm with you. Being a college athlete, I played Division II basketball for 2 years. It's not easy. I mean, it is a job. And I kind of like you, not really like you, but I made the mistake of actually putting sports first, and it did jeopardize my grades to the point where I couldn't play anymore. It wasn't my decision. And so I feel you in that regard, you know. But I definitely think like hard work is definitely something that can really propel someone's career. There's, you know, my coach said it there, you know, that stereotypical phrase is that hard work beats talent when talent doesn't work hard.
Yeah.
And it's so true. It's absolutely true. And they talk about it a lot through this podcast, and it shows that Sarina was able to take the talent that she had, but couple it with her never quitting, working hard, which is why she was able to have the positions that she had at ESPN and Bally Sports, and obviously moving forward.
Yeah, I mean, when she showed up, even after a lot of the other team was protesting, and she was like, well, I still got to show up. Like, I can't walk away now. I'm like, oh my God, like that is so powerful, especially at that age.
That's
To
tough.
Yeah, with
Yeah.
a room full of men, that resonated with me a lot.
Yeah, that's a tough chick if we're being honest. Like, and yeah, you're right. At a young age, I mean, that was when she was talking about that. Like, I have to go. I'm not
Yeah.
gonna not go. You know, and so yeah, it was definitely inspiring because I think so many us and particularly like us as students, we have so much going on. You know, we talked a little bit before the podcast. I have a full-time job. I'm getting my master's. I'm working on this, but it's still all about working hard.
Yeah.
And you have everything going on with you with your classes, you know, working in the athletic department. That's not easy either.
Yeah.
Athletics, college athletics is crazy.
Yeah. I mean, I have a loaded schedule right now. I'm taking 21 units.
Mhm.
I'm doing the internship. On top of the internship, I also am working for the athletic department as a student worker. And then I also have a personal life. So there's just like a lot of things going on. And I'm someone that, as much as I love quantity, I also love quality. And if I am showing up for the athletic department, pushing out content, I want to make sure that that is the best quality that I could push out, and that I'm not half-assing at anything, if I'm allowed to swear. I want to make sure that what I am doing is my name is on it, and that is, I'm trying to say, like, I want it to be
Good.
the best, yeah, good, the
Yeah.
best, like the best that it could be.
Yeah.
And if I if I put my name on it, I want it to be good.
Mhm.
I forgot where I was going with that
No,
point, but
that's fine. No, I agree. Like, if my name's on something, it better be some of my
be good.
best work,
Yeah.
right? You don't want to put something out that's not good,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
So I completely understand that.
Mhm.
Um, and then that's where, you know, what's great with the podcast is with Celeste and Amy, you know, they're kind of great role models, you know, with this as well, and just helping students like myself, you know, get our names out with you. Because I think we got connected through Celeste, right? So
Yeah.
yeah, so just kind of helping in that regards, and that is just tying into working hard, continuing to make those connections.
Mhm. Yeah.
Yeah. And then it ties into, you know, our next topic of discussion, which is, you know, they talk about women supporting women in the sports industry. Um, it was touched on a little bit in episode 1 with Heather Burns, but they really dive deep into here. So I really just want to kind of touch this topic as well. So, you know, like I just mentioned, the Girl Good podcast is a great example of women supporting women in the sports industry. You know, they're bringing light to these amazing women, leading the charge and helping open doors for students like us, wanting to break through. But it definitely wasn't always like this. Why do you think that is? Why do you think it's changed? And where do you see it heading?
Yeah, well, I think before, especially in the sports industry, there were not a lot of roles for women, and so it ended up pinning jobs and women against each other, to fight for the same job. And I feel like now it's shifted where there are women in the sports industry. There's powerful women in the sports industry, powerful leaders, and it's opening up more jobs for women. And that's why I feel like we're now being more supportive, because now we could see a rise of just this whole new perspective that they're putting into this industry.
Mm.
For me personally, like, again, like we talk about being a student athlete, we have our fitness test gassers. I don't know if you know what that is.
Yep.
It's 10, and we can't practice until you can't practice until you pass your gassers at the beginning of each semester.
Okay.
And so I remember in the summer, I'm practicing and I'm texting my teammates. I'm like, wow, I really can't pass this last gasser. Like, this ninth gasser is the hardest one. And they always told me, they were always like, well, when we're with each other, when we're going to run them together, you're going to pass it.
Mhm.
And it's because there's a sense of trust and friendship that we've built, and knowing that we both want to see each other succeed.
Mhm.
And so when we're on our ninth gasser, we're on our even seventh gasser, and we're already wanting to quit, but we have girls right next to us,
Mhm.
motivating us, yelling at us, like, you're going to finish that, or you're going to finish that next gasser. Like, you're going to finish, you're not going to fail. That's not even an option. And so I think moving forward, even in the workplace, like women are coming together and saying like, you're not going to fail. Like
Yeah.
we talk, pushing out good quality content, like you are going to be the best version of yourself.
Mhm.
And I think that's extremely important. And to see the growth of what it was like even 20 years ago, 10 years ago, to how it is now and how it's going to project to be, I think that's definitely something so important to look at.
But like, so I agree with you 100%. You know, I
Mhm.
think we are seeing just a lot more supportiveness, you know, with
Yeah.
women. Why do you think that was so difficult though, you know,
Mhm.
10, 15 years ago?
Yeah, I honestly, I think it was just like competitiveness, I
Mm.
feel. Like a
Mhm.
lot of women want to be the best because there weren't a lot.
Yeah.
And um I mean, I know if I was in that position, I would want to be the best. And I would want to, if there was one job opening, I would want that job opening. And if that
Mhm.
meant that there was also like 50 other women lined up for it, I would hope that like my competitiveness would come out and I would want it. But now it's so different because there's so many job openings, that there's so many career fields that we could get into. And
Mhm.
now instead of pinning ourselves against each other, I feel like now we're motivating each other to get that job or get that next promotion.
Yeah. And I 100% agree. I know I always say like just how Celeste has just been amazing. She's been a great mentor for me. And this podcast has been such, you know, a great thing for me to get
Yeah.
into that sports industry. And I just think, you know, with that in the past, there is exactly like you said, there was limited opportunities. You know,
Mhm.
there was maybe one or two spots for a woman's news anchor, or one or two
Yeah.
spots for, you know, somebody to work in ticket sales and different things like that. But I also think the rise of social media, I think
Mhm.
the rise of podcasts, and we can just you can do it now. Like there's nothing stopping us because we're creating our own voices, if that
Yeah.
makes sense.
No, 100%. I mean, I think, yeah, social media is a huge factor now that you could brand your name could be your brand.
Mhm.
And people, influencers, like that is very new. And so a lot of women are now being heard. And I think that's social media has such a huge factor in that. A
Yeah.
hundred. Yeah.
And there's also kind of I think it can also be a mindset thing. I mean, probably 10, 15 years ago, women probably just didn't know that they could at that time,
Mhm.
you know? And I mean, now you look at what was it, a couple weeks ago, you look at professional hockey and
Mhm.
they have their first women assistant coach. I mean, who really would have thought? And you look at the NFL and they have women coaches throughout the whole NFL. So you have a lot of these male dominated sports that are played
Mhm.
by men, but now you're seeing women enter those spaces because people are understanding that, yeah, we do know what we're talking about, probably because
Mhm.
we created our own voice. Would you
Yeah.
agree? Like, what do you think with?
Oh, 100%. My first female coach was in college. When I was growing up, I only had all male coaches. And I have to say, by far, Coach B was, she knew what she was talking about. She was a leader. And when she spoke, you listened type thing.
Mhm.
And she's taught all of her girls so many different life lessons. And um, I think that there is a sense of now power behind women's voices in male dominated sports. And yeah, softball, it's about girls, but there was a lot of male coaches. And I think because she is in some sort of male dominated area, that did make her become more of a leader. And when she spoke, like she knew what she was talking about because she had to. She
Yeah.
had to know what she was talking about to get to where she is today.
Mhm. Yeah, absolutely. No, it's a great point. Yeah, it's crazy. It's crazy thinking about it. It's also crazy just thinking about how much women's sports has blown up in
Yeah.
general. And I think that translates to the opportunities in the sports industry
Mhm.
because it's now known that we know what we're doing. We know what we're talking about.
Yeah.
And then you add the supportiveness of other women coming in. And it's really just bolstered us to have confidence, like you said, with your teammates, you know, to complete something or apply for that job and different things like that. And so I think it's been a great turnaround. Now, where do you think it's heading? Do you think women are going to take over the world and the sports, or like
One
what are you
hope.
going to see in the next 5, 10 years of that evolution?
Yeah, well, I think definitely having, like you said, the first assistant coach in hockey, and then the WNBA also is just so huge. But I think that moving forward, finding more equity among it all, I think even just like the paying of the WNBA compared to the NBA, just like the difference between women in sports and then men in sports, I think that's definitely going to change in the next 5 years. Just the way they're viewed and treated and perceived. I just think that that's going to definitely just only get better from here.
Yeah. Yeah, I definitely agree. Viewership wise, I definitely think we're getting the opportunities to be viewed. So now with ESPN, with with volleyball and CBS, with, you know, women's basketball blowing up the way that it's blown up, I think it's a great opportunity for it to continue to grow. Absolutely. And it's just going to continue to grow because you'll have little girls now watching this and they're seeing these people do what they want to do in the future. And so it's just going to help them work hard, like we discussed earlier, to kind of do that and achieve those goals. So yeah, that's great. And so kind of, and still going along those lines, you know, I've talked about like little girls seeing it, wanting it, and achieving it. What is your why? Why do you want to be in sports? What drives you to want to be here?
Yeah, well, I mean, I've always been a part of the sports world. Like I said, I played softball for 16 years. I played soccer, volleyball. Like I just loved sports. And so 2 years ago, walking away from it was extremely difficult, but it was a decision that I felt was for the greater good of my fulfillment. And I think getting this internship at the athletic department was such a huge turnaround. I think it was a full circle moment for me. And my personal goal is I want to be on the visual design part of sports. I want to market a team. I want to be kind of the voice of a team through social media. And I just think it's because it's what I know. I know being a part of a team, I know collaborating with people, and I know that you are only as strong as your weakest player. And I love that concept. And so I love being in the sports industry because it's just a full circle moment. And I know 2 years ago, my 18, 19-year-old self is so proud of where I am at today. And I could only just go up from here.
Yeah. Yeah, growing up, my dad was our high school basketball coach. And so being a little girl, you know, just walking across the street when he had to practice, it just made me love basketball and sports in general. I think sports is a great way to learn teamwork and
Yeah.
leadership. And it's just so exciting. I think when it comes to sports, you really it's so unpredictable. You think somebody's going to win, but you don't know until it actually gets played, right?
Yeah.
And I think that's the exciting part of it, and just the camaraderie that it comes um with fellow fans that maybe I've never seen, but I'm an Ohio State fan. So like I'm in Southwest Georgia of all places.
Yeah.
But I definitely know if I see somebody wearing an Ohio State hat, we're best friends now. You know,
Yeah.
I think being a part of something like that is just great. And
Mhm.
and I'm with you. I love the marketing, and my go-to is that fan engagement because I love just the way that sports makes people feel and create.
Yeah.
And that's me watching on my couch, me yelling at my TV screen, like through
Yeah.
the ball. um, or at a game, at a tailgate, you know, watching even little kids play. It's just such a great experience in my
Mhm.
opinion. So
Yeah, well, I mean, even at Sonoma State, it's a small school. We don't have a football team. We don't have a big stadium, but what we do have is we have athletes that are dedicated to their sport. And my goal is to bridge that gap between the students and the athletic department because we want to bring in, we want people, our students to see the competitiveness and the grit that all of these student athletes have. And I think that that in itself is why I love doing what I want to do, because I love seeing people walk through the doors because we're advertising this specific game and there's a hype around like a rivalry.
mhm.
And I love people showing up to see that. I'm personally, me and my family are big Longhorn fans. And
Okay.
so I follow, like, I'm following all of the Longhorn pages because their football team was just on fire this season.
Mhm.
And I just I'm I'm less honestly attracted to the stats and just the way that this marketing team has just marketed their
Yeah.
brand, like the videos, the stat, like the graphics, everything is just coming together, and that's what I hope to do for Sonoma. That's one of my biggest inspirations is their marketing team.
Yeah.
And and yeah, that's just my main goal, and that's why I do what I do.
Well, I look forward to seeing your stuff and I'll be like, I know her. I know her. She's on my podcast. She talked about this on the podcast. Now she's doing it. I like
She
it.
talked a lot about it.
Hey, that's
Yeah.
manifest it, right? You got to
Yeah,
manifest what you want sometimes.
100%, yes.
Yeah. Well, that is going to wrap up our discussion of the second episode of the Girl Kid podcast. Audrey, do you have any final thoughts before we close out today?
Nick Persak, I interviewed him for an informational interview, and he told me that perfection gets in the way of progress, and that's going to stick with me, in my opinion. Yeah.
I like that. I like
Yeah.
that a lot. Well, be sure to like and subscribe to the Girl How'd You Get That Gig podcast on YouTube and follow the show on all socials at Girl Gig Podcasts. Thank you again, Audrey, for your time and your thoughts on this podcast. You can check out the next episode of Girl Gig After Hours on the Girl How'd You Get That Gig platform, where we will dive into episode 3 with Zena Kita, Manager of Strategic Partnerships at The Atlantic. So thank you again and see you all next time.
Thank you.